Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Victor again with my Ioniq 5. Today's video, I actually originally set out to make a video about how family-friendly or kid-friendly the Ioniq 5 is. And I'll still touch upon that towards the later half of the video. But what ended up happening, and happens frequently in my video making process, is I went down a bit of a rabbit hole and then came out on the other side, having learned something that actually helps convince myself even more that I bought the right car. The reason that I say that is because I was researching legroom for the first and second rows. We have a 2016 Volvo XC90 in addition to the 2022 Ioniq 5, and the most natural thing for me to do typically is to compare these two cars in just about every way possible. One of the very first surprises of ownership was installing my son's rear-facing car seat and then sitting directly in front of it in the first row, and I was just blown away because I still had legroom and I could still recline my seat with the child seat in rear-facing mode. Climbing into my XC90 with a different car seat but also in rear-facing mode, my knees are just about touching the glove box and my seat feels very upright. So an average-sized adult may have some issues sitting here for a long road trip. Now, we have two college-aged girls. They're on the smaller side, and we've done longer road trips in the XC90, and they haven't really complained. But still, with a fully packed car, you're going to have some issues with average-sized adults up there. But not the case with the Ioniq 5. So anyways, that got me curious. What kind of legroom numbers are normal? So I started researching and came away pretty surprised by just the numbers that I was seeing. But at the same time, there was something that was not so surprising. So let me show you what I mean. Here is a spreadsheet that I compiled. It's a list of cars that I feel would be pretty common or typically would be associated with being family friendly. Now, these numbers are pulled from online sources, which I try to double check for the most part to make sure that they're correct. Hopefully that they are. So starting at the top, we have our big legroom cars. Now, I've never sat in a Hyundai Palisade before, but after seeing this, it's definitely on my to-do list. Next up, you'll see we have a bunch of EVs that actually take the top spots over some bigger SUVs and even over minivans. Minivans, in my mind, are supposed to be this ultimate family hauler segment, and they still win in terms of practicality and in other numerous ways. But it's nice to see that our EVs can match or beat the interior legroom of minivans. So this whole legroom space thing was a huge surprise. Now, what about the not so surprising aspect? That would be the question of what cars in the current market have family-friendly credentials but can also boast 0 to 60 times under 5 seconds. Currently, we don't have any speedster minivans out there on the market, but hey, maybe they're on the way for our EV futures. So the only real segment that actually caters to being kind of family-friendly and sporty at the same time is this sort of compact crossover segment where moms and dads can drive souped-up versions of the more common crossovers. You could argue that hot hatches fulfill that need as well, but I think, personally speaking, the crossover segment kind of provides a little more space and practicality. So there are a whole bunch of other ones out there, but I'm pulling specifically the X3 M40i and the SQ5 because they're two of the more popular ones. Now, this segment is essentially a bunch of luxury compact crossovers in the 60 to 70,000 US dollar range with 0 to 60 times under 5 seconds. But look at that rear legroom. It's significantly less than what you would get in a dedicated EV platform that only clocks in about 2 to 3 inches longer on average. And if we were to pull some of these hatchback numbers, these hot hatches, it would be even more of a difference, which is why I'm not really taking a look at them. So what that means is I'm not really surprised by the fact that there aren't that many quick family-friendly cars, because this is a segment of cars that matched exactly what I wanted when I researched the Ioniq 5, and I already knew there just isn't that much available. I wanted something with 0 to 60 times under 5 seconds, but it also had to be family-friendly and meet my needs for a daily driver, for work, and with hauling the family on weekends. And that's not taking into account the affordability factor. If I had gone for an SE trim Ioniq 5, I would have checked those same boxes of being family friendly and having 0 to 60 times of under 5 seconds at a price point of around $40,000 after factoring in the federal tax credit in the US. That, in my mind, is a steal. I mean, what else out there can do all of this at this price point? And even my limited trim comes in cheaper than a similarly spec'd X3 M40i or SQ5 and gives me much more interior space. So like I said, this didn't come to me as a surprise. I already knew there just weren't that many cars out there that could provide the performance that I wanted while being family friendly and budget friendly. Here's a condensed list where I removed anything that didn't deliver a 0 to 60 time under 5 seconds. If you consider second row legroom as vital, which for family friendliness I consider it vital, then now you really only have 3, maybe 4 options depending on how much rear legroom you can get away with. The Ioniq 5 and the EV6 and the Model Y are the clear winners here, with the Mach-E still staying in the game. If you want a family-friendly car with some performance packed in there, this is it. My personal preference parameters match this new crop of EVs perfectly thanks to these dedicated platforms that allow the interior space to be prioritized. Moms and dads out there can now have some pretty serious fun, and that's not to say that some of these minivans or even ICE SUVs aren't fun, but it's all subjective, and for me personally, I wanted a sub 5 second 0 to 60 car. That's what's fun for me. So if you're like me, then here are your current 4 best choices, factoring in legroom, 0 to 60 times, and a budget between $40,000 and about $75,000. I know it's a big range, so that means you can pick based on the price point that you selected. If you want to stay closer to $40,000, when you factor in tax credits, you're looking at a base model Ioniq 5 or EV6. The Mustang Mach-E Select all-wheel drive is around that price point, but the 0 to 60 time is above 5 seconds. So you'll have to move up to the premium trim to get below 5 seconds for 0 to 60. Now the Model Y seems like a fantastic choice that I just still haven't had a chance to try, but it was simply over budget for me, and it didn't have federal tax credits available anymore, so the Ioniq 5 and the EV6 were really the only ones in budget that checked my boxes of being family friendly in terms of legroom, yet could provide this dad with enough fun in terms of 0 to 60 times. So this kind of turned into a post-purchase realization that I chose correctly for my family and my personal needs and preferences. Now, I know there's a bunch of new EVs coming soon, and this list will only continue to grow because, like I said, dedicated EV platform cars are creating this new segment, which I just happen to be super interested in because they offer excellent performance at an affordable price point for many people and have interior space and legroom that's just not typical in the market. And that's why I'm interested in pretty much every single EV that's hitting the market, including trucks like the R1T from Rivian or the F-150 Lightning. I think they can fit the mold of being family friendly too. So back to the original topic, how family friendly is the Ioniq 5? Well, number one, legroom space for accommodating adults in the front of a rear-facing car seat is excellent. Number two, seat durability. We'll be going over this in a separate video soon, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, these leatherette seats feel very, very thick with a very smooth finish. Real leather is smooth, but you can typically feel the texture and the pores, and they don't wipe so easily. Whereas with the leatherette, super easily wiping, no sticky feeling after wiping. The door panels look great, but they're just plastic, so they should be pretty durable on the upper and lower portions, but watch out for that Tyvek panel. I have a video on that as well if you haven't seen it. Air vents in the back are located on the B pillars, again for the upper trims, and it's nice since it's not stacked in the middle, where if you had someone sitting in the middle, you'd be blocking the vents, and the kids can't really mess with each other's air vents since they're all the way on the sides. We also have plenty of USB ports in the back, and this one's kind of a funny one. With a limited trim, you can actually push the center console all the way back and kind of help create a divider or separation. Let's say the two kids in back are bickering and you want to create separate spaces. Well, the center console can do that. And if you put down the center armrest as well, there's a very clear defining line for each kid they can stick to their sides. The next thing on the list is actually the front center console storage. It's a mixed bag in some ways because you can't really store small things. They'll get tossed around and they'll make a lot of noise, especially if you're doing some 0 to 60 times pretty quickly in the Ioniq 5. But on the flip side, it's great for holding larger items. Personally for us, what happens is if we have a lot of people in the back and the car's fully loaded, I don't want to put the diaper bag in the trunk because there's things in there that my son may need during the drive. So sticking it in the front center console area is perfect. It fits perfectly and it's perfect placement for me to pull whatever I need out of it easily. Then we also have Sounds of Nature, which for parents is a built-in sound machine, and I've demoed that before in another video, and it worked out great for us on a road trip. Then we also have sunshades for the rear windows, plus the clamshell type cover for the sunroof, so you can darken the cabin significantly without having to go aftermarket and buy shades and whatnot. And then when everyone is awake, you've got great light coming in from giant windows plus that vision sunroof, so the kids are not going to feel trapped or confined in the back. On the contrary, they should really enjoy the back seats. And lastly, trunk space is decent. Here's an example with Costco toilet paper, Costco paper towel, Costco water, and a stroller for size. So, all in all, I think the Ioniq 5 has just been a great family car for our family, which is primarily just my wife, myself, and my 2-year-old, since our girls are off to college. But, occasionally we do have all 5 of us here, and we do fit just fine in the Ioniq 5. But really, my biggest takeaway personally is the fact that this car can do 0 to 60 under 5 seconds while providing all of this family friendliness at an affordable price. It's just really hard to beat this. So let me know why the Ioniq 5 fits your family, or if you have any questions related to the Ioniq 5. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.